Okay, we're going to jump to the oatmeal. Oatmeal in and of itself is usually not too exciting to kids, but we can make it exciting. Again, there's our cost per portion on that. Um, our ingredients, a few different kinds of apples, salt, and oats. And Jerry, well, what can we use from the subsidized food, commodity food?
Well, I just looked on the list and I see that the commodity list has oatmeal, and we used fresh apples, but they have frozen diced apples, uh, peaches, pears, apricots, cherries. So there's quite a list of things we can do assortment.
Great. So this is fairly easy. We're putting oatmeal into a pan with water, apples, and salt, and putting it into the retherm oven. Again, we use this the retherm at 350 to cook the oatmeal. And again, Jared, why would we use the retherm and not just do this on the stove top like everybody else does?
Well, same thing with stirring the vegetables. I mean, certainly you can do it on top of the stove, but then I have to stand there with a whip and mix it and make sure it doesn't burn for 15, 20 minutes till it thickens. If I put it in the retherm at the 350, it's not boiling. I don't have the direct heat hitting it, so there's no chance of me burning it. And I can walk away and come back in 20 minutes. And if I see that it's thickened, I just give it one little small stir with a rubber spatula, and I'm done.
Great. And then once that was cooked, we put that into the Climate IQ to hold it warm until it was time to get it in the steam table to serve. And we put, again, some garnish. So there's cooked apple in there for flavor. And then there's some apple slices, again, to attract people. Jerry, you actually have a story about oatmeal that's plain looking.
Well, there I go back to the garnish and kids eating with their eyes. We would have it there online, and the students would just walk by it. And then the next day we'd try it, and we'd have it garnished like this. And again, the kids would look to see what that is. Some are saying, "Oh, that's a pear, that's an apple," and maybe they'll ask a question. But even if, as I say, if they stop for that 5, 10 seconds, you've got them. You can give them a little sample and tell them what it is, and would you like to try it? It's nice and hot, and it may take you 4 or 5 different days of sampling, but you'll be surprised. The kids will finally try it.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to talk a little bit about local food purchasing now. The country's divided up into 8 growing regions, and um, we have an example of what's grown and in season when in region 7. And so there's apples that are in season from July to October. So again, in the fall, you can get local apples into your oatmeal recipe or any recipes you use apples for. The other thing you can do is you can talk to your food processors and ask them to actually request that they find you local apples, local frozen apples, local frozen chopped apples, and when you put the onus on them, they want your business and they'll figure it out. Asparagus are available in the spring. Again, there's a little knife work involved with them, but if you can find the time, kids love asparagus. Blueberries, they're around in the summer when school's out in general, but they can be bought, frozen, stored by your vendor, and it would make a funny looking oatmeal, but the kids might be interested in that and and want to try that. We have I have other examples that aren't on the computer that I would just like to go through. I have all the different growing regions in front of me with what's in season when, and if you were in region 3, which is the Northwest, mushrooms are available September through May, and you could get those. And the thing about when these vegetables are in season and the fruit are in season, they're very affordable. That's when they're the most affordable. And so the other thing that you want to tell your vendors which you probably already know, is that you don't want to spend any more money for this food if they can help it. So um, if you're in region 4, which is the southeast, onions are in season May through August, so you can get those into the 2 breakfast recipes in the spring. And peas are around in the southeast, region 4, from July to October. So these are just some examples. Potatoes are available year-round in regions, 1, 3, and 8, which is the mountain region. They're available in the Midwest from June through December. And so if you want a website on what, if you want to know what's in season when, you can drop us an email. We can get you how to figure that out. So we've gone over what our current food system and its impact on the environment and health, and why healthy cooking is needed in schools. We've looked at some recipes, touched on local food, and I'm going to be with FWE at the ANC Conference in Nashville, Tennessee, July 10th through 13th, raffling off one of my Grow Teach Feed collections. And so if you come to that, I'd love to meet you, talk about food some more, and FWE would like to show you their climate IQ and retherm oven, and they have lots of other things that they make. So do stop by and say hello to us. Now I'm ready for any questions.
Great, we have a couple questions for you guys. The first one's about the breakfast burrito. Do you have to use so much butter, and would you really serve the sour cream with the burrito?
Yeah, no, you don't have to use all that butter. Jerry and I are these old school cooks that love butter, but of course we can't be feeding kids a lot of butter, so you don't need all that butter at all. And I would strongly consider either making a salsa or serving it with sour cream. You don't have to. You'll save some money if you don't. But you give a kid burrito with a little salsa that's not too spicy, and they're not going to forget it. It's just fun to dip the burrito into it, and so I would do that. Yeah.
Great, next question. If you don't have a retherm oven, how would you make these recipes?
Any of these recipes can be made in your regular oven or convection oven. It just takes you a little more time to watch that you don't burn them and you don't have the moisture like you do in the retherm. But any recipe can be done in your regular equipment.
Great. You mentioned ways of using local food throughout the year. Can you give us an example of what you could substitute into one of these recipes to use it year-round?
Yeah, I mentioned some of those. I can talk more about it. So in region 2, which is the north region, in the fall, squash, it's the tail end of squash season in September. In region 3, which is the northwest, there's squash around through October. Same with the southeast and the Ozarks. So squash is always very affordable, and sometimes with zucchini and yellow squash, there's not a lot of labor there. The harder squashes, there's more labor, and I would consider taking the hard squashes and baking them whole, and then taking a spoon to them after I cut them in half, and then spooning that cooked squash into those first 2 recipes that we did. That's the least amount of labor way to deal with whole squash. It's not, usually people want to cut them in half and take out the seeds, which makes sense, but really you can just cook them whole, cut them in half, clean them out, and it's much less labor. And when you do cut those hard squashes in half, when they're raw, it can get dangerous unless people have pretty good knife skills. Tomatoes, are always very affordable. In the Southeast, they're around through November. So you can put tomatoes, not too many in those first two recipes because they're going to throw a lot of water, and they could make the eggs a bit too runny. And the thing about those first two recipes that we didn't mention is you want to always add salt to eggs at the very last minute, if at all possible. What salt does to eggs is it takes a lot longer to cook them. You might even consider salting those after the eggs are cooked. That's usually what I do. Raspberries are around for that oatmeal. Like in the Ozarks, the tail end of that season is the beginning of September. So it would be nice to even buy a little bit of raspberries and garnish the oatmeal with that, so it doesn't cost you a lot. Another idea for salsa for the burrito is cucumbers are around, like in region 6, which is the Southwest, through November. And a little cucumber salsa, which could be simply red onion, a little bit of vinegar, cucumber, maybe just a little bit of canned tomato for color. And that the kids might like that too. Kids tend to like crunchy vegetables. So those are some ideas. I mean, I can go on and on, but
Well, we just hit the 30-minute mark, so we're going to answer one last question. If you have any future questions, please feel free to email us. Greg, where are these recipes available?
these recipes are going to be on our website, and the book they're in the Grow Teach Feed book. So people can buy the Grow Teach Feed collection, or at least the feed part, and all these recipes are in there. So we are going to ask you to take a quick poll now, just a few questions, and Colleen's going to put that poll right up in front of you right now. And while you take that poll, I want to thank you for being on this webinar, and please take the survey at the end. We want to serve you. We know your time is valuable. You just gave us a half hour of your time, and the last thing I want to do is waste your time. So suggestions in the survey will help us hit your hot buttons in our future webinars, which we're doing in the next couple of weeks. We're going to do some lunch entree webinars, and then in 3 weeks a side. We're going to talk about sides with these same ideas in mind. So, and the reason that we're asking you about local food and how much you're using is because we want to know our audience. It's going to help us a lot. If you're already buying a lot of local food, we can get more specific in our webinar classes on how to take you deeper into getting local food into your cafeterias. So that's why we're doing that. I want to thank FWE for being our sponsor for these webinars, a great company that I really appreciate their generosity and thoughtfulness in wanting to help food service directors in their daily life. So thanks so much for joining us today. Have a good day.